is up, and it's good.
You're listening to The Extra Point, hosted by Phil Ruskin. Welcome.
Welcome in. It is Tuesday night. It is another episode of The Extra Point with your host, Phil Ruskin. As always, not going to lie, I got a comment today after posting this link that Kendall is no longer a guest on this show. So, Kendall, if this was old England, I would ask you to take a knee as I took my my broadsword and tapped you on each shoulder and knighted you as the co-host of the show. So, welcome in, my friend. It's good to see you. I know I feel like a couple weeks off. We've had some personal stuff going on. We've had some computer issues. You've had a tornado. Yeah. I shaved my beard. I don't want to talk about it. I'm not really happy about it, but it just is what it is. So if you saw the intro and then you're expecting to see a gray bearded gentleman, you'll see a handsome bearded gentleman and a naked baby face. And well, sometimes you get what you get. So it ain't going to affect the way we draft. I promise you that. So Kendall, how's your week been, my man?
It's going, man. Work is definitely work. I'm just fighting to stay healthy. I'm in that the newborn's not so new, but we're still not sleeping a ton, and I do a lot with manufacturing and recruiting. So getting sleep and staying healthy is the key. I'm up to 3, so I just kind of have this lingering back throat situation. But I'm like, look, I expect every receiver that I draft just be awesome. So, I got to keep myself to that level. All right. We're not going to be the developmental X. All right. We're going to step on the field and be Mike Evans, thick or thin. So that's what I'm telling myself for right now. So I'm just getting excited. Getting excited for the deeper dives and I'm getting my sleepers kind of picked out. The pick orders getting a little more dialed in. No one was super excited about this 2026 class. I think me and you are already thinking of 27, but it's our jobs. We're nerds. We can't take a year or a season off. Feels like there's always opportunity regardless if everyone's already looking ahead. So I wasn't, this is the first year I'm like, do I even start look? I mean, I have to, you got to do the homework, but I wasn't excited. And then I started to get the itch and I started to do deep dig. And I'm like, oh, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't care if they don't have much of a ceiling. As soon as we get to the second round, in my opinion, I still just want to be right. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, we're still analysts. And even if they're all not great, and that could be the case, if we might have a 25% hit rate, I still want to be right on that one gem that's going to come out. And I still think we can get there.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking in the green room, tomorrow's April 1st, which means we are 22, 23-ish days away from the real draft. And which means we're about 25 days out from our rookie drafts, because I don't know about you, Kendall. I know you and I are in a ton of leagues together, but for the leagues that we're not in together, I have one team that I co-manage with a buddy, and we actually do our rookie draft right around the time training camp starts, which I really hate, but it makes it kind of fun because you get to draft again, right? Unless you're in a startup, you're probably just doing best ball drafts and redraft at that point. But all my other leagues are either drafting on that Sunday or on that Monday, right after the NFL draft concludes. So, I mean, you got to get shows like this and research and articles into your brain, because it's, like you said, it's time to formulate some of those opinions about some sleepers. And that's our job on this show, is to help you. And we're still going to be breaking down these rookies over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be talking about pick values. We're going to be talking about trades. We're going to be talking about tier breaks. So I know we've got a ton of guys in the waiting room here ready to draft. They're excited to draft. Please jump in if you're listening, watching the show. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. You can always follow on the ticker on the bottom all of our links to subscribe on Patreon as well as Spotify. And then, of course, we will be answering all of your questions. So make sure you get those into the chat. You can always DM us and join our Discord channel as well. So without further ado, let's jump into this draft. I think for those that are not able to see the board, we will do our best. Kendall, maybe we just pause at the end of each round so we can at least
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, then we'll just read off the draft as we go round by round. So tonight's format, guys, is going to be a 12-team full PPR Single quarterback, 3-round draft. So it's going to mirror most of your standard leagues out there. Excuse me, your full PPR leagues. I realize standard is a word to just kind of say like the format, but there's also real standard leagues, not PPR. So yeah, we will try to do, if we can, at least one more for the Superflex crowd and get you guys at least a Superflex draft. But like Kendall said at the top, it's questionable who the QB2 is in this draft, and I don't expect we'll see 2 quarterbacks selected in this format tonight. So we're going to go through the draft right off the bat and basically have all the picks, and then Kendall and I will break it all down rather than stopping round by round. So hang out with us, ask those questions. We will be here knocking this show out for you. So without further ado, Kendall, fire away, my friend.
You have the board. I have it up on screen, but I didn't actually create the mock.
Well, then, I guess you do need me for something, don't you?
I know. I was realizing as we're doing this, like, you got the power. I'm just a little AV right now.
Here we go. We ready? I just wonder who the 101 could possibly be. And Tyler Randman is on the clock. We're going to give him his full minute to draft here. Look, I want to say this because we know who the 101 is going to be. Kendall, this should be a quick yes. I'm assuming from you, it is a yes for me. Is Jeremiah Love the 101 in all formats, including Superflex?
Correct. Yeah. Not particularly close.
Yeah, I agree. So I know we talked about this on the show a couple weeks ago, guys. Jeremiah Love's going to be the 101 in all formats, including Superflex. If you have the 102, I want you to at least consider drafting one of these 3 wide receivers, and I blame Perk just did that. Don't just auto draft Mendoza. I like Mendoza a lot. We've talked about him a lot already on this show. He's clearly the QB1 in this class. He's going to be the 101 overall in the real NFL draft. But he doesn't run. And that's my big knock on him, is I still, for fantasy, think that he's probably a high-end QB2, which is going to be great for your team. I'm certainly not sitting here saying don't take Mendoza. I would take Mendoza. But next year's quarterback class is loaded, and there's a lot of guys that run. And if you've got a couple of 27 firsts already in the stash because you're a rebuilding team, you're probably drafting in the 102, 103 this year. So I wouldn't just automatically take Mendoza because, again, I think he's going to need an outlier season with touchdowns, high amounts of yardage in order to finish in the top 12. Realistically, I think he's going to have a couple of QB1 seasons in his career, but without that rushing, Kendall, do you see a world where Mendoza is an auto, like I'm not saying he's as good as Mahomes, but how Mahomes didn't have the rushing upside, but for the first 5-6 years of his career, we would have always assumed he's going to be in the top 6, top 7.
Yeah, no.
And sorry, you are on the clock. I realize I just asked you a question.
Yeah, no. This makes it pretty easy for me. The crazy thing is there's a guy getting drafted a little bit later on. I wanted to take a spot that was a little more controversial, or I'd make a pick. I probably should have taken the 107 if I wanted to do that. This is just a layup for me. Just on the Mendoza thing, I'm an IU guy, so I had to really be measured on my Mendoza takes, but I'm just going to get real. Okay. When we talk about dynasty, we're talking about production on your team, but we're talking about the trade market and overarching value. If you're in leagues that are fairly fluid, you're flipping stuff around, but when it comes to an overall asset, right? I'm going to use my example of the guy that just won the Super Bowl at quarterback, right? What's Sam Darnold really worth on the trade market as a not super snazzy high-end producing quarterback? He just won the Super Bowl. He's as safe as it's ever going to be, right? Yep. Literally one of the safest spots. Are you really paying more than a first round for him ever, realistically? I mean, maybe, but like not a ton, right? Like there's no way we're getting past a first and a second. So really it's first ? First, and it's not super high end, right? It's just really not. And I look at the upside, not even upside, just look at like the last 4 weeks of the NFL season. I'm pretty sure Tyler Shuck was a top 5 quarterback, right? I don't think Mendoza is ever as fantasy relevant as Tyler Shuck. It's just the way fantasy is scored, and mid-tier quarterbacks that are just kind of like, okay, look how Jordan Love fell from grace so quickly. He had one good season, but no one's trading for him. So it's a weird situation of he feels safe in a class that has a lot of question marks, but there's no upside. All of those top 3 wide receivers that you mentioned, every single one of them has probably a better floor ceiling combination. If none of them outright bust, I think in 1 year from right now, they're all going to be worth more in the trade market than Mendoza. So I'm taking Mendoza earliest 105, and that's the absolute earliest. In my opinion, I'm at this point, based on landing spot, obviously, I'm probably taking KC above Mendoza. That's kind of where I have him in the tier list. That's kind of where I feel safer taking him.
Yeah, I think it's hard because you're going to look and you're going to be like, oh, got to get a quarterback. And he is clearly the pride of this class. I'll share this in a 1 quarterback, 12 team league 2 years ago. Caleb went at the 108. I got Jaden at the 202. And honestly, I had the 205 and the 206. I probably could have waited and even gotten 3 more picks of value and still gotten Jaden Daniels in the middle of the second. Now it's a 1 quarterback league, obviously in Superflex. You know this. We talked about this during that draft class. I had Jaden ahead of Caleb. I think it's closer now because Caleb did a great job this last year improving. He showed a lot. Jaden missed most of the season, as we know. So we'll see what that looks like in the startup ranks here in a couple of months. But the first round goes like this, guys. Jeremiah Love, no surprise. Carnell Tate, who sort of seems to be emerging as the tight end one, the wide receiver one in this class, followed by Fernando Mendoza at the 103, but that was also an auto pick. So Mekhi Lemon at the 104, Jordan Tyson 105, Casey Concepcion 106, Omar Cooper Jr. 107, Kenyon Sadiq at the 8, and the RB2, Jadarian Price at the 109. Denzel Boston, Eli Stowers, and Ty Simpson to close out the round. So, you know, it's an interesting activity that we're doing here, because I think what you end up finding is a lot of these guys are it's sort of starting to mirror what I think it's actually going to look like here in a couple of weeks when we do the rookie draft. Again, we know that some of this is going to change with landing spot. But here's what I'm seeing in the first round. Very wide receiver heavy, as we expected that it would be. Jadarian Price, could he be the RB2 in this class? Yes. Jonah Coleman, possibly. Emmett Johnson, possibly. Mike Washington, possibly. So I really do feel like the RB2 in this class is going to be determined by draft capital. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit as we get through the show. But at the beginning of this second round, we've got Mike Washington, Elijah Surratt, Jonah Coleman, Nick Singleton, Emmett Johnson, and then Chris Bell, Jacoby Lane, Zachariah Branch. So that's kind of, Kendall, what I expect to see is the second round being a place to maybe attack running back. I personally would still take a shot on some of these wide receivers earlier and hope if you're in the middle of the round, that's where I would take the running back, because I just don't know if I love the ceiling on this class. And then in this third round, we're not there yet, but that's really where I expect to see a lot of tight ends and running backs go. I know it's still early. We've got a couple of weeks still before the draft, but is that kind of your read on what the expectation is over this early to middle second round? Is that's where you expect to see the running backs really start going off the board? Or do you think there's going to be some risers into the late first based off draft capital?
No, I think the first is pretty set. I definitely think I think the first round is going to be pretty much. I do think like the running back with the best landing spot, whether that be Jonah Coleman, whether Jadarian Price gets a good landing spot, like whichever one of them gets like the juicier landing spot, it always happens. We saw it with the Brooks Benson class where they both crept up and up and up, and they kind of stayed at that turn. If 2 of them grab good landing spots somehow, I don't think that's realistic. But if that's the case, I think that's latest you're going to see one of them go like 201. But I really think the draft kind of starts basically at 202, and there's this big flat tier of you're going to just choose, like, if you need running backs on your team, you're just going to talk yourself into taking the running back, right? Honestly, ADP's messing me up so much too, because I definitely took the wrong pick. I'm looking at the board. That is not the pick I would have made. Yeah, I think it's, if you need running back, you're probably going to be more tempted into them.
Mm-hmm.
Even at that pick, I just took it because I was running a little out of time and I didn't have my queue kind of set up here a little bit. But I was already looking at Branch in particular. Branch, Brazel. I think some of these receivers, they have decent wide receiver 2 traits. I don't think a lot of them have wide receiver 1 upside, but I do think in a good landing spot, they're still talented. Like the class is top heavy, but it's relatively deep, and that the drop off at wide receiver, it's there. but it's got this nice range. The second range isn't like awful. I still think they're pretty doable. I do think there's going to be a relatively low hit rate, but there's going to be a couple decent wide receiver twos. I see a couple there's a couple X's, and it's been a while since we had some decent X's. Are they going to be a bunch of Xavier Legettes? I think so. Oh, well, and we're going trig there, and I'm auto picking.
All good.
My apologies, guys. Doing a little too much talking there. Maybe would have been a Claiborne pick. I don't know. We'll have to see there. But yeah, that's kind of how I break it down. I actually like the wide receivers more than the running backs. But if they don't have a real ceiling, like if they end in a landing spot where I just don't see it, I'm probably just taking the running back and saying I'm probably punting this pick. But over the next 2 years, this RB will probably be more usable than the Tyler Boyds that we might be drafting in the second round. I don't know. Is that how you see it?
I mean, I see this as an opportunity for certain wide receivers to establish themselves in a way that they haven't been able to in the past. Like the sexy picks are going to be whoever Miami drafts. And I anticipate Miami taking at least 2 wide receivers in this draft, right? People are high on Malik Willis. The sample size is really small, but people like what they've seen. And of course, if you had Malik Willis on your waiver wire or on your bench, you won the waiver wire lottery, so to speak, right? And I think what's challenging is, if you've got all these targets to absorb in Miami, is that going to push somebody who talent-wise may not be better than guys that are in front of him up the board simply because of opportunity? And I think the answer is yes. It happens every year. Case in point, it's a different position, but look at RJ Harvey. He went in almost every single one of my leagues in the back of the first round last year. I would take RJ Harvey for a third, and no one's going to accept that trade. No one. Because they're not going to burn a first and just light it on fire. They're going to hope and pray that there's a resurgence this year, that Dobbins, who has clearly had an injury history, misses time, and that there's going to be some sort of a, sell high window later on. I'm also concerned with some of the Miami's a great landing spot for a tight end and for wide receivers, and that's what this class has, is wide receivers and tight ends. It's not a strong running back class, and if you look around the league, it's like, are you going to be excited if Emmett Johnson lands in San Francisco? I would be stoked because I'm a Niners fan, and that's fantastic. But from a fantasy perspective, you're not getting on. I mean, let's not sit here and say Christian McCaffrey plays every game, because we know he doesn't. But like you have to. We draft assuming and presuming health, and Christian McCaffrey's an every other year guy. So if you had McCaffrey last year, spoiler alert, probably this is a year he's going to miss some games. But that's my point, is like Emmett Johnson could realistically wind up in San Francisco because they did not sign Brian Robinson Jr. So you're not stoked about that, right? Like, what happens if you've got Chase Brown and somebody lands in Cincinnati because they don't have a true RB2? You know what I mean? Like, there's situations in the NFL where there's a clear established starter that are probably going to take a running back because the hot spot is going to be Seattle, right? So if one of these guys winds up in Seattle, he's going to go in the back of the first round. And that could be a great pick for the first half of the season because Sharps is hurt. But what if that guy doesn't produce right out the gate? They're going to turn it right over to Sharps. You know what I mean? So it's like, I want you to consider talent of the player as the first reason why you are drafting a player, and the landing spot second. Now let's talk really quickly about Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, and Jordan Tyson. I'm going to give you 3 teams, Kendall. I have Tate right now as my let me try that sentence again. I have Tate right now, as of today, as my wide receiver 2. I have Tyson first. I think on paper, the injury history is concerning. Talent-wise, he's the best player. I have Tate 2, Lemon 3rd. What if Carnell Tate winds up in New York with the Jets or Cleveland with the Browns, and Tyson or Lemon go to the Rams or the Dolphins? Does that then change your opinion about talent? Because in Cleveland, it's going to be a year, if not 2, before there's a quarterback, or more. And in New York, it's going to be 2 years before there's a quarterback. So honestly, does that change your opinion?
Yeah, I've already got question marks on Tate, to be honest. I think he's probably the weakest like alpha wide receiver Ohio State's seen in probably 5 or 6 years. If you just look at the metrics, I don't have them up in front of me, but I've been really digging into them, and his yards per route run, his dominator ranking, his yards per game, every single thing is basically the lowest out of, the Ohio State wide receivers. Yeah. And I really think that we're drafting him like LSU wide receivers of yesteryear. And I think he's going as high as he is because he's a good, like he is the best X wide receiver in the class. But I don't know if that is more valuable than a slot or power slot going in a good landing spot, in my opinion. Yeah. So you tell me Lemon gets a good landing spot, it's over. He's like easily like I like the Amon-Ra comp. I just think he's really good for PPR. I think he's going to move the chains and he's just going to be awesome. Yeah. Right. Jacoby Myers at worst and younger and better in every way. And that's not a bad spot to be. I'm not saying Tate's my third guy, but it's definitely at the point where if Tate doesn't get the elite landing spot, he's easily number 2 to whichever one has a better landing spot. And I could see him falling to 3. I tend to be a little safer lately, though. Like Tyson, for me, I like him, but there is risk. And I don't see like this. There is AJ Green upside. There is. But I'm more of a safe guy, right? I just don't want to have the bottom out of Huge or anybody from TCU, really. So because of that, I still have Tyson ranked where he does. There's like a weird world where like, I don't think Casey is going to get above Tyson just in pure prospect comp, right? I think that's probably a mistake. That's going landing spot too far over talent. But to answer your initial question, Tate by all means is not like glued in with my 101. I'm going to go landing spot. It's an easy decision to get over Tate. Tate's never going to fall out of my 3 hole for wide receiver. But he's vulnerable.
I think you're going to see Lemon and Tate in that order, or Tate Lemon in that order, depending on the draft capital of each. And Tyson's going to be the wide receiver 3, because I think people are on average. Sure, in some of your leagues, it might change, but I think if you were to take an industry average ADP for rookie drafts, I think the injury history is going to scare some people. And unless the landing spot is, Miami, Kansas City, if they trade AJ Brown, which they won't do on draft night, but if he winds up in the Eagles, or if he winds up in one of those high powered, if one of these guys winds up in Buffalo with Josh Allen, like then sure, that changes things for Tyson. But I think when you look at these 3 guys, I think all 3 have high ceilings. I see all 3 as an immediate, hopefully an Egbuka archetype, right, that can come in and make an incredible impact here in their rookie season and establish themselves. So I think the next question we want to talk through here in the first round, the 105, I'm glad you said it because I was going to say it on the show. I saw you pick the 105 and I picked the 106. That's where the draft starts. In one quarterback leagues, I'll be honest, in one quarterback leagues, I don't think Mendoza goes in the first half of the first round unless you just need a quarterback. But in one quarterback leagues, even with 12 teams, everybody has a quarterback. Everybody probably has a good quarterback. You know what I mean?
Like you lose a lot of value in one quarterback. If he's your starter, you're in trouble.
Right. In one quarterback. So unless you're burning a pick on like, I've got to have a high end backup. So all right, maybe your quarterbacks are Kyler Murray and Aaron Rodgers. Okay, fine. I could see you taking Mendoza, but I would still take him in the second because he's probably going to be there. So I think you have to assume the first 4 picks, not assume. I think we pretty much know the first 4 picks minus an outlier are going to be Love, Tate, Lemon, and Tyson. So the 105 to me is an interesting spot because that is truly in a one quarterback league, the first tier break and where the draft begins. If you have the 105 in Superflex, you're guaranteed one of the big 3 receivers because Mendoza will go. And if not, then you could grab Mendoza at the 105 in Superflex if you really need a quarterback. And in Superflex, you might need a quarterback, and I'm okay taking him at the 105 there. Mm-hmm. That I'm okay with. But in a single quarterback league, the 105, 106 are interesting. So you took Jordan Tyson at the 105 because Mendoza went. I'm curious, Kendall, who would have been your pick had Mendoza and Tyson been flipped? Where would you go at the 105? Because I think if you have the 105, this is for you. This question is for the drafters out there that have the 5, 6, 7. So who would you have taken?
It's not Mendoza. It's never
it's not.
Mendoza.
Agreed. I wouldn't have taken.
Probably not Mendoza at the 106 too.
I would not have taken him at the 6.
It's just not really how I build my teams, to be honest. This pick is valuable enough. there's value in the safety of, if you take Mendoza, you can sell him to a QB hungry team because it's got a great narrative, and you can get not like crazy value, but a slightly bit of juiced up value, right? So I might draft Mendoza to trade him, but I really like Casey. I think he's really going to work in the NFL, so I definitely have him over him. And then I think Cooper with a decent landing spot, I might consider him over Mendoza too. I do think he's landing spot dependent. I don't think he's talented enough to be good everywhere, but in a good landing spot, I think he's got more upward mobility to climb past Mendoza in a multi-year situation. So Casey easily, possibly Coop. Once we get past that, though, outside of an outrageous landing spot, then it's just, I think the safe play is just, I'm going to take Mendoza because it's too many question marks. Boston's good. I think he's very landing spot dependent. I got some question marks. All the running backs, I'm taking Mendoza over, and I'm so out on Sadiq. So I just have Cooper and Casey in a tier of their own, and then it's Mendoza for me.
Yeah, it's interesting you say Boston because he seems to be a name that is rising. He's getting some top 30 visits. I'm seeing him, quote unquote, move up in the mock drafts right now, especially like the bigger 3, 4, 7 round mocks that the NFL.com has actually been putting out over the last couple of weeks. So he's really interesting. I think he's a guy that, I'll be honest, like it wouldn't shock me to see the Patriots or the Bills, drafting later in the first round, take a shot on him because the top guys are going to be gone early. Right. I don't think there's going to be a year where a Jackson Smith and Jigba falls all the way to 21, with the Seahawks, where Jordan Addison falls to 22 with the Vikings. Right. Like that year was probably a year. There's probably about 17 teams ahead of the Seahawks that are probably going, ooh, we should have taken him, My point being is that I think that Denzel Boston is one of those guys that he could wind up on a really good roster just because he's not going to go as high as these other players are. So he's interesting to me if he does wind up in a good situation. I took the 106 because, again, tier break. Obviously, I took Casey Concepcion at the 106 in this draft. Had he not been on the board, I would have taken Omar Cooper. And if for some reason both of those players were gone, mathematically they can't be. But if they were, then I would have taken Denzel Boston as well. Over Sadiq, over Price, over Mendoza, because again, in a one quarterback league, I just think it's really hard to trade quarterback unless you're tiering all the way up and giving up a ton for, a Josh Allen, a Jaden Daniels, one of the top guys in the league. So Sadiq is interesting to me because I've seen him mocked pretty consistently over the last couple of weeks now to the Panthers. I think initially we all sort of thought like, man, at 9, do the Chiefs pull the trigger? Kelsey's probably done. This is it. They really haven't done a lot to develop Noah Gray when Noah Gray has played. He's just not been impactful. You know what I mean? He's just kind of out there. And I don't see him look, whoever you're going to take over for Kelsey is going to be a downgrade. You got a first ballot Hall of Famer, and it's going to take a while for the next tight end, if it's the next tight end that even develops, to fill those shoes. But I could also see the Chiefs just saying, you know what, Rashee Rice is a mess. Xavier Worthy's not who we thought he was as an alpha wide receiver 1. He just ran really fast in his underwear at the combine. Let's go get a receiver here at 9. Pat's banged up. We got to make sure he stays healthy. There's a lot of ways we just signed KW3. So there's a lot of things that I think the Chiefs have done this offseason that they could afford the luxury pick. And if you're the Chiefs, they have to think that they're not going to be picking this high again because they believe that they're a perennial Super Bowl contender. This might be the highest in their minds, the highest they pick for the next 4 years. Why not try to go and get your window? Which you've got Kelsey, you've got Walker, you've got a healthy Mahomes. You'll have a healthy Mahomes at some point this season. So I could see them pulling the trigger on a wide receiver instead of Sadiq there. So Sadiq is interesting to me, but I think Sadiq at the 109 to 112 is really where, if I have to take a tight end, that's where I'm comfortable taking him. And I'm still going to take these wide receivers over all the tight ends. And I'll be honest, I'm never out on a player, nor should you be. If it's not Jeremiah Love, I would rather do this. I would rather trade a late first for an established running back than take a shot on some of these rookies. That's where I'm at with some of these rookies in the first round. In the second, that's different. So Let's close this out with this first round here and move into the second. Kenyon Sadiq at the 108, Jadarian Price 109, Denzel Boston 110, Eli Stowers interesting here at the 111. I don't hate the pick. I think in the 1 QB league, look, if he lands in a really good spot, it's probably not the worst pick. And then Ty Simpson at the 112 is interesting to me in a 1 quarterback league. I don't anticipate that as a pick that we will see. So let's talk about this second round here, Kendall.
I think most people draft it as if it were super flex, by the way. I don't think everyone read the title card. So, I mean, it's, again, totally rookie mock. You can kind of do your own rookie mock however you want to do it. It's practice. So,
or maybe you just believe Ty Simpson's that dude and it's your pick. And you know
what? Is that Dan Dill? Are you Dan Orlovsky?
If he's that dude, victory lap all of us, because I don't see it, but I've been wrong before. Mike Washington Jr. kicks off the second round. Elijah Surratt, Jonah Coleman, Nicholas Singleton, Emmett Johnson at the 205. Chris Bell, Jacoby Lane, Zachariah Branch, Jeremy Bernard, Garrett Nussmeier, Katron Allen, and Chris Brazel the second out of Tennessee. That is the second round. 4 running backs in the first 5 picks. Kendall, anything besides Nussmeier stand out to you here in this second round? Or is this kind of, might be a little bit of difference in where some of these guys go, but is this kind of the pool of names you expect to be second round picks this year?
There's going to be some guys that went in the third round here that are going to creep up. I think so, because the tier is so flat and so like just kind of is what it is. Reaching isn't terrible. Go get your guy that you believe in, because the second and the third round are pretty close. I do think there's a legitimate tier break, but like I look down at Hurst down at 311. He's one I think that moves up a little bit.
Ted Hurst,
I think Max Clare, I think Trigg, I think they can move up. Probably they won't get past the late second, in my opinion. I think people are just going to look and be like, it's kind of some names, so I'm going to go with the onesie, because you only draft once a year and you don't get many picks, and I want to see if I can spike a Sam Laporta. I can see that happening. I think you're going to see running backs in the early second, because it's just a more valuable position right now. We're already kind of seeing a comeback for running backs, and we had a pretty good third and fourth round running back class last year. People are going to chase that kind of a thing, and I just get it. When you're looking down, you're like, I don't really know. It's going to be running back, and then people are going to look at the onesies at tight end. So I think that's kind of how it's going to go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I want to add this name here. It's interesting because I read, I don't know if it was Daniel Jeremiah. I don't think it was, but it was one of the NFL.com writers just did a 7-round mock. And I read through it the other night. He wrote up 4 rounds worth of players, and then he just wrote the names out for rounds 5 through 7. But Malachi Fields is interesting to me because I think he's a name that could go on day 2. And he could go in the 4th or 5th round on day 3. You know what I mean? Like his range of outcomes is very high right now. Very wide right now. I think he could go as high as round 3. If he goes in round 3 on day 2, I think that pushes him into the second round. I think he's a good player out of Notre Dame. If he goes in day 3, then I think he's in the 3rd. But he's an interesting name. Elijah Surratt is also an interesting name. I saw him kind of mocked right now as like a day 3 guy. But Jonah Coleman is the one that stands out to me. I think a lot of people are really high on Jonah Coleman. I had to do a double take because I want to find the writer, and I should have pulled it up. I apologize. I didn't pull it up before the show. But it's the 7-round mock that's on NFL.com. And if my memory's right, I had to go and dig. I think he had it mocked in like the 5th round. And if that happens, if Jonah Coleman is the Shedeur Sanders of this running back class, a guy that we expect to go on day 2, and then all of a sudden is waiting until the 5th, 6th round, he's not going in the 2nd round. So I think
I don't see how he makes it to a 5th. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't either. I think it's the first 7-round mock that I've actually even seen done. So it's like maybe it was positional need, or maybe there's just higher on some of these other guys. But I know if you listen to a lot of shows, Jonah Coleman's name comes up. I think a lot of people early in this process expected him to be the RB2, and now it's really seeming like we don't know. It could be Jadarian Price. Mike Washington is really, really fast. I like Emmett Johnson. I'll be honest. If I had to draft today blindly, please don't do your drafts before the NFL draft. Please just don't do that. But for those leagues that do, I like the pass catching upside of Emmett Johnson. So if I had to take a running back as the RB2 and I'm in the 2nd round, that's at least who I would take because of the half and full PPR value. So I don't mind this pick here that I don't know if you autoed or assessment who you took at the
No, I made
205.
that pick. I was between Emmett Johnson and I was taking a real look. I'm not like in love with this tier of wide receiver, but I do want to get it right because I feel like it's kind of like it's a much worse version of like the Luther Burden, Beck, Higgins kind of. It's like it's their little brother basically. Is a lot worse than the tier. Those tiers are not equal, folks. Let me just be very real with you. They're very different tiers here, but I've got a soft spot for Branch. I mean, yeah, he's a little guy, but he was the #1 prospect coming out of high school. That's got to count for something.
Yeah.
I feel like he actually still has more to unlock at the NFL level because of how good he was. He reminds me a little bit of how like Luther Burden was a little bit like, hey guys, just wait. He's going to be better than you even think. There's a little bit of that to me that I think makes some sense. I've got a soft spot for Jacoby Lane. I just think he's like an X that could like work. Like he probably had the best highlight reel catches. Some of the best, like some of his like posters are real posters. Separation's kind of an issue. So all these guys got question marks. I was considering, do I go with the running back that I think is probably long-term fine? Or do I go with I could hit it right? I could get the Rashee Rice type of pick later on and maybe make it happen. So there's some guys I like there, but I'm honest. I'm probably just taking the running back if I'm being real.
I hate doing this because it was my own pick, and so I kind of wish it was someone else's just so I could talk about this player without. This isn't me tooting my horn. This is a mock draft, but if this was a real draft, I really like Chris Bell. I think he's a really strong player. He's fast. He's got the injury. He's coming off of the ACL, and I think that's why a lot of people are out on him.
Yeah, it's a late injury.
He wasn't
too late.
He's a late injury, so he hasn't been able to test. But like, if he was fully healthy, he has. If you watch him, he's got some Debo in him. He's got a little bit of that toughness, a little bit of that yak ability. I don't see a world where he's in a wide receiver 2 role this season unless he winds up in a Miami or in a New England and they don't bring someone, you know what I mean? Unless there's like an established open job. I think he's a wide receiver 3. So I think that's probably where landing spot's going to help or hurt him. But I think he's kind of a quiet, I'm not going to call him a sleeper because people know about him, but I do think he's kind of a quiet, could outperform his draft position and outperform his ADP. Even as early as his rookie season. And then like you, I also have a soft spot for Jacoby Lane. I think if I'm in the middle, put it this way, if I'm in the middle to the late second round and Bell and Lane are still on the board, I'm going to wind up with a lot of those 2 names on my rosters. So yeah, I like those guys.
I'm probably not going to draft Bell because I think he's going to have the situation of banged up a little bit. He's going to be, even if he makes it to camp and everything, he won't be the same player he was when he was playing good ball. I think him being a step behind in camp is going to severely hamper him getting on the field early.
Good.
And he will be someone that I want to buy towards the middle of the season for whatever I can scrap together because I think he'll be undervalued. Kind of like we brought some Burden shares. Me and you were looking at Jaden Higgin middle of the year, hoping for a second half that paid pretty well. I think he's one, and that's the only reason I want to draft him is I think he'll be cheap as hell later on, and you're going to get the discount. So maybe keep that in mind if you're in a league where people don't really scout the rookies in a deep way, and I think they'll forget at some point in time. I think he's a guy you can pick up cheaper later on, and I think he actually probably has a similar situation to what we're seeing from. Wow, I'm completely blanking on the name now. Right when I go to give a take, that is not professional stuff, but a post-type sleeper for Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Didn't see a lot of time his rookie season, but I think he's
Trey Harris.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah,
I think he's going to have like a post-type sleeper, Trey Harris, where he'll have a burnt year 1, and then he'll kind of come back and do something. So solid. The NFL needs some X receivers. All the good ones are starting to age out pretty rapidly. So.
No, they are. And spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about Trey Harris next week on the trade show. And Kendall and I next week are going to break down not only trades that we've seen happen, trades that we have gotten emails and DMs and all sorts of stuff that has been sent to us of trades people are considering, but I'm also going to put together a couple of names that Kendall, we're going to talk through about what's their real value, right? I know I threw in our group chat Matt Stafford, and we had a healthy, very lengthy and healthy conversation about Matt Stafford last night.
I kept it to one paragraph, kind of.
It was a scroller. It was a scroller on the old screen.
We'll call it a run-on sentence. All right,
it was a run-on paragraph. But it was good analysis, and I think at the end of the day, Stafford, Trey Harris, like those are names, Jordan Addison, like those, Kyler Murray, those are names that people need to have some information on, because you can't sit here and talk about Jamar Chase and, Johnny Taylor all day. So in the third round here, we kick it off with Talon Green from Arkansas. Interesting prospect in Superflex in a single quarterback league. I don't anticipate he gets drafted. He will hit your waiver wire. Max Clare from Ohio State, tight end. Malachi Fields, Skylar Bell out of UConn, Michael Trigg from Baylor, Antonio Williams from Clemson. And then this is Hendrickson, whose first name I don't know. Actually, you're going to have to help me on that one. The running back. Damon Claiborne, Miller, I don't know either. Kevin Coleman, Ted Hurst, and Moss to close out the draft. Any names in here interest you, Kendall, as of today? I know there's a couple names I'm interested in, but who stands out here to you in the third round?
Hurst stands out a little bit. I was looking up some prospect profile comps. Look, I do a lot of my own research, but I borrow a lot of folks that are out there too. I'll be the first to be honest. I am a fan of the fantasy space as well. A lot of guys I follow too. So I think the folks over at Dynasty Land, the folks at Flock Fantasy, and that whole group, they did some really, really nice analytics. And Hurst jumped out to me as somebody who could be a little bit of a sleeper late. Think he has more potential than he's being talked about. I like him more than pretty much everybody but the tight ends in that round, and I actually would take him late too. The running backs are there because they're running backs and they're ranked, and I hate the wide receivers there. I think Claiborne's probably the biggest name there. Put up some production, but at this point, really, if I'm in the third round, the pick order is really polarizing to me. I just want to shoot for upside. Like I need very legitimate upside. So I'm going to take, I'm probably burning this, but I'm going to go for upside. It's probably going to be one of the tight ends. I would love it. I mean, I think I don't know if it happens all the time, but I hopefully Ty Simpson gets buried. I thought he was going to be more of a late second, maybe a third rounder to me. Can't believe he went so high, but no one's really standing out in a major way, if I'm being honest right now.
So I want to pause this third round conversation and go back on something for just a second, because I have to get this off my chest. And I've been writing articles about this. If you read my written content, then you've seen this. If not, then you're about to hear it. I don't care if Ty Simpson gets drafted by the Jets. I think that's what everyone is hoping, is because they're like, oh, Geno's washed. Geno sucks. He's going to be the starter, because look what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen with the Jets. We don't know what week exactly, but whenever they are 2-6, probably not, let's be honest, 1-7, going into probably a bye week, they're going to fire that staff, and they're going to bench Geno. And then they're going to do what every other NFL team that is almost mathematically eliminated from the playoff does when they have a young quarterback. Let's get the kid in there and see what he's got. And here's what's going to happen. The Jets are going to be in the top 3 next year with the Cardinals, with possibly the Dolphins, and they're going to draft their quarterback of the future. So Ty Simpson, if he gets drafted by the Jets, I actually think it's the worst place he can go. I do. Because he's not going to have a job guaranteed to him in year 2. Do you know what I mean? Like, at the end of it all, it's like, if you're telling me that you could go get, by the way, it would be hilarious if the Jets draft Dante Moore, because he literally went back to college so that he did not have to play for the Jets this year. I just find the irony in that too fun. But I think it's like, at the end of the day, I hope Ty Simpson goes to a place where he is truly a backup. Go to Kansas City. I hope Kansas City takes him in the 3rd or 4th round. You know what I mean? Like, go to a place where you're not going to see the field or have a prayer of seeing the field unless there's a major injury. Because if he goes to Pittsburgh, is it Kenny Pickett 2.0? Because it could be. If he goes to the Jets, he's not keeping his job. If he goes to the Browns, fuck that. So I'm just not going to sit here and be like, yes, the Jets, Ty Simpson is relevant. It's not going to happen. Right? And he had a private workout for the Jets. He's supposedly going on a top 30 visit with the Cardinals and the Browns. All 3 of those teams could be picking in the top 3 next year. And the Browns clearly can't get a quarterback right. Mike LaFleur, who I went to college with, and I'm stoked that he got that job because it's time for him to get a job, is not going to put this on Ty Simpson. If they have a chance to go and sign Dante Moore next year, draft Dante Moore next year, they're doing it. They're doing it. Also, the Arch Manning to Marvin Harrison Jr. thing could happen. Anyway, let's get back into this third round. But I have a lot of questions about Ty Simpson going to the Jets, and that seems to be the popular spot. So, in this third round here, I'm really interested in Michael Trigg and Max Clare. I think that's exactly the perfect place to find them. I'm also
Holly with them, or Jolly Holly. I don't know
didn't. I'm so glad you just said that, because he didn't get drafted. That's where I would take a Holly, is in this third round from NC State, the tight end. In fact, I think that could be really awesome. And I'll say this because this is interesting. Trigg or Holly going to the Dolphins, going to the Chiefs, going to the Eagles with Dallas Goedert probably on the last year of he is going to be on a 1-year contract. But like, those are places where, sure, if Sadiq's a first round pick at 19 to the Panthers, there's guys that are going to pull the trigger on him in the first round. But don't sleep on a player going to, the Chiefs, the Eagles, in a place where they're going to have, maybe not this year because Kelsey's there, but like, hear me out on this. You get drafted, Holly, by the Eagles. Dallas Goedert's in front of you this season. A.J. Brown's on the roster as of now. What if next year Devonta Smith is the wide receiver 1? They've got a rookie wide receiver they draft in this draft, because that is a big possibility. I've heard Omar Cooper's name come up a couple times, that Howie Roseman's looking at him as a potential replacement for A.J. Brown. But let's say it's a year from now. A.J. Brown's not on this team. You've got Smith and a rookie or a second-year wide receiver. You've got another year older Saquon, and you've got a Trigg or a Holly as your tight end. That is enticing. That's a lot of red zone looks. Yeah. So I wouldn't sleep on those kinds of tight ends in the third round just because, it's path to playing time and, that's too many mouths to feed. That's the kind of developmental tight end. You could have made that same case a couple of years ago when D-Hop was still in Arizona for Trey McBride, and you can't get Trey McBride right now. You can't trade for him. So I'm not saying these guys are going to be Trey McBride, but my argument, my comparison is that there were some guys that slept on Trey McBride because, whatever reason, there's not enough people there, mouths to feed. Kyler runs, D-Hop, all these things. It's a whole different situation in 2 years, 3 years. So
yeah. I'll just add real quick that I think a large amount of the tight ends in the NFL they're just not built athletically like the modern tight ends coming out of school. They've got better nutrition plans, better coaching, more NFL ready offenses. You're seeing tight ends hit earlier. It used to be you don't never draft tight end as a rookie because they're going to suck. I mean, they're going to be awful. And historically, that was just true outside of like Jeremy Shockey's of the world and stuff like that. So we are seeing that completely flipped on its head, where there's production, there's Fannons happening in their rookie year. Yeah. He was literally a third round pick. And just like some of the guys we mentioned earlier with, so anyways, I like the tight ends. I think the running backs and wide receivers have different levels of competition when they hit the NFL. I think tight end, there's a little bit of a talent overlay where they can step in and do some real damage. And they're also being schemed into the offense in a much more nuanced way than they were 3-4 years ago, in my opinion. So it just makes them better dart throws than they would be normally, just due to a couple of those factors. So yeah, in the third round, I mean, immediately I'm looking at Claire, Trigg, Holly as like, I just want one of them, and I'll feel infinitely better about their potential upside and landing spot compared to a lot of these other guys who, even if they land in a good team, they just might be a Tyler Boyd, and that might be the high-end comp for them.
Yeah, and again, I say it because, you're looking at this year's draft, right? New England, for tight ends, New England. Hunter Henry's not going to be there forever. Great position for a tight end to be drafted into. I don't think in the first round, but like they're going to have late seconds, thirds, and that's where I think you could see New England would be awesome. Miami would be awesome. Kansas City, Philadelphia. I think those are Houston would be a great landing spot for a tight end with Dalton Schultz only on a 1-year contract. And, CJ looked better this year. So hopefully CJ continues to, I want to say he's going to take a huge leap, but hopefully he gets, another small step forward as well. Those are interesting landing spots for guys that may not work out this first year, but in year 2, year 3, you might have yourself a starting tight end there who's getting you 600-700 yards and 5 to 7 touchdowns, and you'll take that. You'll take that for a third round pick. So I want to just talk really quickly about something that I've been kind of playing with as a theory, Kendall, here to kind of wrap the show. I didn't put this together as the 2-minute drill tonight because I think it'll take more than 2 minutes.
Okay.
I know.
Are we going to lightning round questions at all? I did.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Would probably get
Jeez,
to questions.
I'm
Sorry, that's not me. That's not me.
Sorry. Yes, let's do that. Jason Monu. I'm so sorry, Jason. I butchered your last name, man. Jason 6645 says, "What up? I have the 103. I have Justin Herbert and CJ Stroud in Dynasty. Nice. Superflex. I definitely need a wide receiver. I have Deebo Samuel and Higgins. LA Rams. I'm not sure what that means. I like Jordan Tyson, but I want a rushing quarterback bad. Who should I grab? Question is Mendoza.
So he's got Herbert and CJ, but no 3. So he's hurting for a quarterback. Aging wide receivers too. This question is easy for me. I'm saying I'm not. This is a spot where I would take Mendoza like over KC because you need a third quarterback, and this is probably the cheapest way to like really lock up that room. So I would take him at the 105, but no, not at the 103 for sure. No, those wide receivers are in another just a whole nother world compared to Mendoza. So no, I'm taking one of the wide receivers there. Take whoever you like. Landing spots will come out and change every take that I have. So no, there's no way I'm taking Mendoza over any of those wide receivers. That's my opinion, but you can definitely have a different one.
No, I'm gonna agree with you, but I'm gonna take a different take on this because the 103 is such a valuable pick.
You're going to trade for a quarterback, aren't you? Plus a piece, yeah.
I was exactly what I was going to do. I'm going to trade for a quarterback and a 27 first. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go get myself. I know you want a rushing quarterback, but the 103 itself is not going to get you Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels. It's just not there. Those guys are worth multiple firsts. Hurts is the cheapest of the 3, and even he's worth more than one first. You'd have to have another piece.
A nice piece. There's some undervalued.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just going to say. So I would target kind of like just a third quarterback for your roster. You know, I would go see if you could get Sam Darnold, who's going to have 2 more years. It's not sexy.
I think you get a Jordan Love for like the 103.
Jordan Love.
I think he's a good guy.
So I think you could get a name that's going to be, you know, a QB2, which is fine.
I love Purdy. And Purdy. I don't think you get it done, but that'd feel good.
Purdy probably is too high, but I think you could go and get like a QB 15 to 18, QB 15 to 24 range, plus a 27 first, Jason, because the 27 first is where the quarterbacks are. That's what I would do because you have a much higher chance of grabbing a higher upside rookie than Mendoza because Mendoza doesn't run. So that's what I would do. And we'll get on with it. Is a 2-round reversal normal for rookie drafts? No, a rookie draft is almost always linear unless you have some sort of a special rule in your league or you have some sort of something in your bylaws. But a rookie draft,
which shouldn't exist for sure. There's just no way. Phil's being nice. No, rookie drafts are always, if you have the 101, you have the 201. It's not even a reversal. It's not a reversal at all. It is simply a repeating line that will repeat again. Like you're typing and hitting the space bar or hitting enter. And that should be for every rookie draft.
Jason jumping in here again. I want to see the landing spots like for Taysom, Tight, and Lemon. We all do. Besides the hamstring, Jordan Tyson's injuries are a fluke. He's the most wide receiver ready. I like Tate, but also, you know, Lemon in the slot. So I agree. I think we've talked about this, Kendall. We think Jordan Tyson's the best route runner. He's the most physical at the line of scrimmage. I think he's the best player. But again, I think people are going to be a little scared off about the hamstring injury. And then, of course, if one of these guys winds up in Cleveland,
the hammy does worry me. Those things linger, man.
They do.
You get a hammy in camp, and it's like, oh, dude, the whole season's toast. I hate that that's a thing. But I lean more into the injuries are fluky in general. Everyone in the NFL plays in the NFL. They're all injury prone because of their job. Lean outside of it.
Quick comments here. Chris Bell's a sleeper. If he's there at the 15th pink, I think he's a good grab. Well, that makes me feel better because I did take him in this mock tonight.
Is Jason a new favorite friend of the show now?
I mean, if he's going to keep
face, but he's liking
if he's going to keep liking my board, then he can stay. No, I'm kidding. Yes, appreciate the comments. Yeah, I would have liked that comment even if someone else had taken Chris Bell. I think Chris Bell is a sleeper in the second round as well. The Choco Taco, who does have a picture of a Choco Taco. I love it. Seth McGowan is a good dart thrower in the 3rd or 4th. I agree with that. The man, the myth, the legend, saying what up, Rasta. Chiefs are showing significant interest in Jordan Tyson. I think that is an interesting landing spot. Is the Chiefs taking
that would be awesome
a wide receiver? And then let's jump on this one. Omar Cooper ends up in Buffalo. Kendall, let's talk through this. I Blame Perk, who was at the 102 tonight in our draft, says, if Omar Cooper Jr. ends up in Buffalo, the conversation will need to be had about a top 3 wide receiver in the class. I'm going to let you talk it out because I have an opinion, but I want to hear yours first on this one.
I do love me some Omar Cooper, but no, I think we're putting way too much hype on, like, it's the Bills, it's Josh Allen, like, oh man, got to be top 3. And look, it's nice, but the Bills are a run first team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's remember that the Bills are a run first team. They do just grab DJ Moore. And if they throw the ball to the rookie more than they throw it to DJ Moore, they're going to have a very pissed off DJ Moore and a culture problem on a team that already fired some coaches that they shouldn't have. So will he be a good high-end dynasty? Like, does it do amazing things for his dynasty, like, overall? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it gives him a ridiculous floor for sure. But I would be careful about saying, oh, man, Buffalo, Josh Allen, like, he's going to be nasty over there. I think he would be really, really good there, but I still wouldn't be taking him in the top 3.
Let me give you a name because, number one, if you listen to the show, if you're a fan of the show, you know that I like this player. I was very high on this player last year. I'm still fairly bullish on this player this year. But you also have to be realistic into what the reality of that situation was and what that situation became. Kendall, you know the name I'm going to give you. It's Jaden Higgins. Yep. Because we all said, look, Jaden Higgins was an early second-round draft capital player. There's nobody there in, Tank's out for the year. Christian Kirk's old. It's just Nico. And it took him a while, a real long while, to even beat Christian Kirk for the spot. And Christian Kirk missed time. And I still think there's a possibility that Higgins is not guaranteed to be the wide receiver 2 in Houston. I think he should be. He has every opportunity to be, but it's not guaranteed that he is. And it is guaranteed that DJ Moore is going to be the alpha in Buffalo. So if Cooper or any of these names goes to Buffalo, it's just math, guys. Follow the contract. You know what I mean? Like, you're just not going to see 120 targets if DJ Moore's there. You're not. You might see 80. And that's great. I would take 80 for a wide receiver 2 attached to Josh Allen, wouldn't you?
Yeah, high value targets most likely. I mean, they're going to be great. Yeah.
But you're not going to be the one. And so I think whoever winds up in Buffalo, again, I kind of said this on the show tonight earlier, right? Whoever winds up in Buffalo, whoever winds up in Miami, the opportunity is going to be there. But is the talent going to be there? Because remember, Keon Coleman could have been the one for this team, and they don't even want him on the roster.
Poor Keon, man.
Like, it might be over for Keon. He'd
have been so good in press conferences. Like, we deserved better, Keon. What are we doing here, man? Yeah, this is not an anti-Omar take, though. It's just I think temper expectations there. He's got crazy hype. Everyone is going crazy on Omar Cooper. I don't want to go the other way, but I feel like I'm forced to at least be a little more temperate on expectations. His prospect profile before all the hype and everything, too, is good, not like it's not elite when you compare their college production, their athletic metrics against like former wide receiver classes. He's not stacking up with even like a Ladd or anything like that.
No,
realistically.
No. I think Omar Cooper, if he goes to a great landing spot, I could see him as the wide receiver 4, but it's going to be hard for him to get ahead of KC Concepcion in my mind if Concepcion also goes to it. Like, let's say Cooper goes to Buffalo and KC Concepcion goes to Miami. Who do you want in that situation, Kendall? The big 3 are off the board.
I'm taking KC. I think KC is a much more complete wide receiver.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree. Let's flip it. Let's say Concepcion goes to Buffalo and Cooper becomes the de facto wide receiver 1 in Miami. Who do you want?
Man, now it gets close, but I still believe. I think there's a tier break in talent between Casey and Omar, and I would have to stick to my guns on over the course of like a full 2-year window of, let's see, the second year too. I think I'm going to take Casey.
I just thought of this because I'm looking at these names and I just thought about landing spots. I want to say this because I've been writing about this and I haven't said it out loud. And then we've got a question here from Bradley Chambers, and then we'll close the show. If a wide receiver does indeed go to the Jets, especially one of the big 3, still draft them as if they went to an incredible place because the Jets are going to take a quarterback of the future next year. It is going to happen. You just have to hope that the quarterback they take is the right guy. So if Tyson, Tate, or Lemon winds up in New York, that's going to suck this first year. It's going to suck.
I mean, it might. Honestly, I don't think I actually don't think it has to be that bad. If I'm being honest with you, only because
the hell's throwing him the ball.
Well, here's the thing, though.
Who?
But you still have to respect Garrett Wilson to some extent. That's the situation where I'm like, I like the two because I think the team will just be like, we're not going to let Garrett Wilson beat us because he will beat you. But the rookie might still have some rookie mistakes here and there. But I feel like if like a Lemon goes there, plus his yards per route run against zone are just insane, like 3.66 or something, just insane. I think it could be a real power slot situation there. Quarterback's best friend, kind of like how more early. Who am I thinking? Not AJ Brown, wide receiver 2 in Philly. The way he was doing, D Smith, a lot of slots that
I would say this. You were pissed. We were all pissed when Neighbors went to the Giants because they didn't have a quarterback. Enter Jackson Dart. So it could change in New York for the Jets quickly if they get the right quarterback in next year, which means that wide receiver that you passed on because somebody went to, the Rams. And maybe that's a bad example because you still might take a Mekhi Lemon over a Tate or a Tyson if Lemon does indeed go to the Rams because they're all pretty equally talented.
Yeah.
But if somebody winds up, in a what you think is a better year one spot, and just hear me out on this, and then I said we got 2 questions here, and then we're going to wrap the show. You better get a talented guy and trust that you have a talented guy because Matt Stafford may not be the quarterback next year for the Rams, and I don't think he will be.
Or a back problem. We talked about CMC
or a
every
million
other year.
other things. Yeah,
Stafford
a million other things. So
yeah.
Don't just poo-poo these guys. Now, if one of these guys goes to Cleveland, we'll have a conversation because they
sucks for fantasy because then we have to bury Fannin too at the same time.
You got to bury a lot of guys. Judkins stacks should go through the roof though. So Bradley Chambers 3317. If I am a contender and I have the number 1 or number 2 value share at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, but have only Brenton Strange as my tight end, would you move a 27 second and a 26 third for Jake Ferguson, or is that a lateral move, Kendall?
It's worse than a lateral move.
His wide receiver 3 is BTJ, so he does have 2 Jaguars. He threw that second comment in there. Sorry, go ahead.
Just from a dynasty value perspective, we're talking, and I don't know if it's tight end premium or not. That could matter a little bit here, but I think a second and a third for Jake Ferguson is pretty rich.
Agreed.
It just feels rich to me. It feels like in the long run of that, the long-term value that you lose out on over years just feels crazy. Like I'm the guy that always drafts a tight end in the 3rd round. And over the course of history, I've never needed a tight end because I'll draft somebody. There's other guys, Bradley, that I would go after that I think are going to give you similar production. I do think Jake Ferguson bounced back this year, but there are just cheaper guys. Like when you say lateral move, Ferguson doesn't have to be that much better than Strange. And you also will also not know who to start sometimes. It's a pretty hefty price for that. I think with what you're doing, either go big or go home. Like if you're going to go lateral, if you're giving up a second and a third, just give more and buy someone reasonable and better, like go all the way up and be done for a while, or go a lot cheaper and solve it through volume, grab a couple and then see who's going to have the hot season. I'd rather go cheaper.
Or stick and pick. You know what I mean? Like this, we just talked about some names here in the 3rd round that could be second rounders that we like for tight ends that really
Claire, Trigg, Holly.
Yeah, and I think some
27 second. Yeah,
I think some of these guys are going to wind up in good spots. I very realistically could see New England taking a tight end in this draft because Hunter Henry's not. I think Houston takes a tight end in this draft. I think Philly takes a tight end in this draft.
And you also just mentioned some names that are like, what about a single late third for a Hunter Henry just to kick it down the road until you set up a better buy? Like if I'm running your team, I'm constantly figuring out how I do a consolidation trade. You have all this value, but you have low ceiling PPG in your starting lineup, which matters for high end placement when you get to the playoffs, right? I would be looking at that trade with everyone in the market, but it might take you a couple months to get the big tight end trade done. In the meantime, go cheap and kick the can down the road. And me and Phil, we'll probably mention this in future shows too. We don't spend a lot of time on tight ends, but I do think there's ways to very clever. You always end up buying a good tight end off me for kind of cheap right before they blow up. So just whatever Phil says, take it. Because every time I trade him a tight end, they blow up.
Hunter Henry is the perfect cheap tight end because he's going to have 400 or 500 yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns this season. And all you need is to have 1 or 2 of those weeks when you need him to have something, 70 and a touchdown, which is absolutely within his bag. And that'll get you there. Because I've been formulating and playing with this theory. I'm trying. I can't believe the words are about to come out of my mouth.
Ooh,
I am trying to trade for Sam Darnold right now in a league.
Okay.
Because it's a super flex league. I have Mahomes, who's banged up, who I anticipate is going to take a minimum of a month to really get back. And if he does get back, I mean, is he QB1? Is he a top 10 guy? Maybe. I mean, yes, he should be, but they fucking sucked last year.
He needed every bit of those rushing yards to even be reasonable.
That's the only reason he had a good season.
Him banged up. I don't know.
He's banged up, and they just signed Walker. They are not going to put a banged up $500 million quarterback and say, hey, we need you to be our lead rusher. Why'd you just pay Ken Walker all that money? So in this league, in the Superflex League, I finished 3rd or 4th. I made the semifinal, and I think I got upset in the semifinal. No big deal, right? So I traded up already in the draft from the 108, so I must have finished 4th to the 105 because I guarantee myself one of the big 3 receivers because I'll miss out on Mendoza. No big deal. I have 327 firsts. So I'm trying to trade for Sam Darnold right now because I know I can get 2 years out of him. It gives me a starter because Mahomes probably won't be ready, and I have Bo Nix. And if I can get this deal done, I've offered him a fair compensation. I've offered him a fair trade, and I think it hopefully helps both of our rosters and gets done. But if Sam Darnold, it's not sexy. He's not a rushing quarterback. But my point in all this is I'm formulating this theory the last couple of years that seems to be working. In Superflex, you can win with mid QB2s and high-end wide receiver 1s and RB1s. And that's the formula.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's like, oh, Superflex, I got to get Josh Allen. I got to get Jaden Daniels. Great, sure. But what happens when Jaden misses the whole season and you passed on Jamar Chase? You passed on Jahmyr Gibbs because you had to draft that quarterback first in your Superflex league. That's what most people do. And I'm of the opinion that you can win a championship. I've done it. I did it with Jarrett Stidham a couple years ago when the Broncos pulled Russell Wilson the last week of the season, and I went, oh, shit. I may not have a quarterback this week in a championship game. And I found Jarrett Stidham on the waiver wire, and he gave me 17 points. It wasn't sexy, but it was all I needed. And I don't remember who else was on my team because that team is old, but I won the league. And so that's my point is you can get there with you can get there with CJ Stroud and, Jordan Love as your quarterbacks. It ain't sexy, but you can win it if you have a Jamar Chase and a Bijan or an Amon-Ra and a, JT as your anchor players. So I think if you're looking at, going out and spending on these tight ends, unless you're getting, like Kendall said, the top tier guys, go get a Hunter Henry for cheap. Give yourself 4 to 6 points a week. It's not sexy, but you'll get an outlier 13-point week and go. If you're going to make a trade, go trade for a ceiling wide receiver. Go trade for a ceiling running back because that's where the difference makers are. So with that in mind, Choco Taco says, I have a 10-team super flex. I have the 110 and the 201. I want to trade one of them for vet. What could I realistically get? Keep in mind in a 10-team, you have pick 10 and you have pick 11. That is technically a late first round in a 12-team league. So I want to trade both for a vet. Kendall, do you have a veteran in mind? Because I have a different take on this and what I would do.
I'm also the guy that's like, wait, why are we getting a vet for this pick? Why are we doing that? I don't want to go get a vet with this pick. Yeah, okay, here's the thing. I'll give a quick take and then I'll throw it over to Phil because I think we've got similar takes here. Right now, what you're selling is being massively devalued, right? I think the window to sell those picks is gone right now. Like everyone is saying like 26 draft class is bad. Do what you can to sell into 2027. Well, if everybody thinks that this class is bad, and it might be, I'm not saying it's great or anything. Look, if you're the person that's reading anything in the fantasy news, it's all telling you Don't buy a late first round pick. Sell, sell, sell. So when you say like, what can I realistically get? If you're having to say that, look at the question. You're saying, what can I realistically get? You're saying realistically because you're probably not getting a lot of great offers right now because no one wants those picks. So the best thing to do is at least wait until those picks are at the peak of what they can and will be, and then and only then sell. It's hard to give you an answer on what you could get though, because I probably don't want to go after a vet. I have some names in mind. We keep talking about Eagles players. I honestly like buying both of their wide receivers because AJ Brown's going to be gone and probably be valuable. And I think at that range, just a late first, if he bounces back to form elsewhere, he'll be more valuable than that. You can get a nice profitable overlay there. But the whole thing is wait till the draft itself. After the NFL draft and when your rookie draft comes up, there's going to be a running back that spikes in popularity and does the Benson thing, and then you can cash out and be nice. Don't sell too early is what I'm saying. Those picks are going to be a little spicier and flashier closer to your draft. So I would just say be cautious and get in our Discord so we can have a deeper conversation.
It is hard to answer that question in a vacuum. We don't know the format of your league. We don't know what everyone else has. But I would say this blindly. If it were me, I would take that first round pick and I would trade it for a 27 first, because here's the logic. Here's the math behind it. It is the last pick of the first round. The person you trade it to has to win the league in order for your pick in 27 not to gain value. Now, I assume most people in your league are going to know that, and that's fine. But there are people in your league who don't have picks this year, who are going to get, like Kendall said, right when that draft kicks off, they're going to get upset. They're going to get itchy finger because they're like, oh, damn, I don't have any picks. I don't want to miss out. And they're going to see that number one. And that's what people do is they look at the number. They don't look at the pick. They look at, oh, it's a first. I've got to get a first. Great. Here you go. Here's a first. Because if you can flip that 110 this year for someone that's excited, that wants to get in on the draft, especially what I would do, Choco Tacos, I would go target the guys in your leagues that don't have firsts this year or don't have a lot of picks. There's always guys in every Dynasty League that have mortgaged their team to the nines and don't have picks for a couple years. And I would find a guy that doesn't have a first this year and see if you can flip it for his first next year. Because again, he has to win the league in order for your pick not to gain value. And it's possible you're picking at the 104 next year instead of the 110 this year. And you're also keeping the 201 because it's the inverse argument of what I just made. You have the 11th pick. You're basically picking the same player at the 110 that you're picking at the 201. It's the same pool of guys. So that's what I would do versus trying to go find a veteran, because the truth is when you send a pick for a veteran, the anti seeing the number one is people go, well, I'm not selling you Devonta Smith for the 110. I want the 104, 5.
Yeah, they're gonna want something better.
And fair. And that's true. Right. But you're also looking at guys that are just blindly, because here, Kendall, I'm going to shit on it for a second. This is why we don't want keep trade cut in our conversations, because if you look at keep trade cut, they'll say the 110 is worth more than insert the player's name. Do a mock draft. Do multiple mock drafts. Do your own rankings.
That's why our Dynasty startups, man, that's why we do so many of them. It really tells you like what players are worth adjacent to other players.
It's if you go to your little keep trade cut says this is a fair trade, go put in the player that you think realistically is going to be available on the board that you would draft at the 110. Go put his name in, and then go put the pick 110 in. The pick is always going to be worth more because it's an average. And that's why a site like Keep Trade Cut is not a reference point, right? Go put names to picks. Unless you have the 101 or the 102, the 103, it is not going to be as premium a player as you think it is. And ultimately, you're selling a first and the value of a perception of what a first could become, when really you're selling a guy that's probably going to be a second round NFL draft pick, maybe even a third round NFL draft pick. That's still going to be at that position. Most likely it's second rounder, because that's who's going to go at the back of the first round. But that's what you're selling. So
yeah, I do have some names though. I would say when you're selling that
give us
pick,
some names. Give us the alternate.
More than likely, one, know your buyer. Okay, sell the pick when it's closer to on the clock, because if someone's buying that pick, if they need a tight end and Stowers is available, all of a sudden they're going to want this pick and they're going to see their last chance to buy something. Like, that's an opportunity. And then make sure to not ask them for a tight end. They're probably taking Stowers. So find what they have in abundance and go for that. Do not go for what they have. Most people are running back thin right now. It's hard to buy a running back. The market's a little bit elevated. I just don't think you're realistically going to get someone you like. So I'm just not going to name too many running backs. If I had to, Josh Jacobs is pretty cheap for what I think is still a pretty good team that needs to put up points in a good division.
Yeah, that's a good name.
At wide receiver, I think Wandale for some people is a sell high. Like, let me get out of him. I don't really like his landing spot too much, but I think he's going to have 2 billion targets. And I think some people will see it as selling high. I think he's a guy that's just going to catch 100 balls for a couple seasons. Maybe that happens. So that's just another name I would throw out there a little bit. DJ Moore, I think, is actually kind of a buy low right now. I do think he's going to have a couple very, very good years, and I think he appreciates by the middle of this upcoming season. I think he's going to put up good numbers in a Josh Allen offense, and he's going to be looked at as like a new AJ Brown, like aging vet but hyper productive, and you're happy to run out the clock for 2 or 3 years on him. I think that's going to be valuable production you can buy for like that 201, the 11th pick basically. I would want like a small pick back, but that's like a tier where I'm like, could I get into a player that's not worth a full first, but maybe get a third back in 27 or 2 thirds? Because those thirds in 27, the whole class is just yoked. Like in 2024, thirds were great because the first 2 rounds were so stacked. That's the type of trade I would make. Those are just a couple names to throw at you at wide receiver.
No, those are good names. I like them. I think the Wandale name is really interesting. I just took a first look at him the other day, and I was like, it's not a player I can't afford, and I think he helps me on certain rosters in some of my leagues as a wide receiver too. And I think that would be a good name. So, if you want to come play in any of our leagues, we've always got stuff opening up. We have 2 spots left in a 12-team Dynasty Best Ball full PPR tight end premium league. If that is interesting to you, shoot me a DM at P Ruskin on Sleeper, and I will tell you a little bit more about the league. And it is going to be heavy trading. There are a ton of Kendall, and I know everyone in that league. It is going to be extremely active. It's going to be a very fun league. So if that interests you, Dynasty Best Ball, I've got 2 spots left. That league will start. It is an auction. That league will start pretty soon after the NFL draft. And then, of course, as Kendall mentioned, jump on our Discord. We will answer all of your questions. Next week, we will be doing the trade show. We do it every year. It is super fun. Send us, DM us all of the questions that you have about trades you are considering sending, trades you have received, you're wondering, should you accept, trades that have been completed. We will break them down for you. And I hate the word who won the trade, but we'll at least give you our take on if there is a stronger side to the trade. But shoot us everything you have, and we will do our very best to feature it on next week's show. For all of us here at the Fantasy Football Network, for myself, Kendall, this has been another episode of The Extra Point. We out.
Wanted to write fantasy is the play. Marking off and